I know that a lot of people, when it comes to AI, ask, is AI going to take my job? The honest truth is, it's the person using AI that's going to take your job, right? This goes back to, things change, whether it's AI or something else. It doesn't have to be technology related. Job roles change.
Welcome to Rise and Stride, where we empower you to take your next step in an ever-changing business landscape. Here's your host, Denise LeDuc-Freeman, President and CEO of the California Society of CPAs.
Hello, and thanks for joining us for another episode of Rise and Stride. Today's guest is Neil Sahota, an IBM Master Innovator, United Nations Artificial Intelligence Advisor, speaker, and author of bestseller Own the AI Revolution, and many other books, Neil, that you'll share with us as we go through the podcast. With 20 plus years of business experience, Neil works to inspire clients and business partners to foster innovation and develop next generation products, solutions powered by AI. Neil, we're excited to have you today and to have you at our member summit on August 1st, where you'll be sharing your insights with us. So if you haven't signed up, audience, please do, and you can see Neil in person and ask him any questions that you want about AI. So Neil, we're so excited to have you today. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Denise. Looking forward to a fantastic conversation.
Me too. I'm looking forward to learning. I always love that. So maybe the best place to start is we always want to know, what's your journey? How did you get here? Because it always seems like people just poof. They're in, a place where they always wanted to be, but I know it's not, it's kind of a winding road. So maybe you can share with us your journey.
Yeah, sure. I have to chuckle to myself because in my younger days, I would ask people like how they wound up where they wound up. And they would always just kind of shrug their shoulders like, I don't know, it just kind of happened. And now I say the same thing.
And then people are frustrated. They're like, give me the formula, but there isn't one.
No, I didn't plan for this. I never really planned and said I'm going to be an AI guru or anything like that. But, a little over 20 years ago, business intelligence was the big thing. So, and I was working with a lot of big companies like, Berkshire Hathaway and Disney and all that. And I had some of the big wigs just going, Neil, it's amazing what computers are telling us. And I was thinking to myself, not really telling us anything. We get all these great tools to, now collect and store data. We can slice and dice and make nice looking reports. But it got me thinking, could a machine look at data and draw insights from it?
Mm-hmm.
And so I started working on something I called enterprise intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a bunch of patents, and I was actively working to turn it into a product when I got a call in 2006 from IBM R&D. Said that, hey, we're interested in some of your work, chatted about it. And they were like, you solved some big problems for us. We just started a new secret project about a week ago. You want to join us?
Oh.
And that's how I wound up on the IBM Watson team. And even then, we weren't calling it artificial intelligence, with cognitive computing. But lo and behold, we did the Jeopardy Challenge in 2011, and that was the trigger for the AI wave we're in today. And that's how I wound up by accident in AI.
It always is an interesting, journey, and there is no formula for it, right? As you're talking, I'm thinking about, the curiosity, because we talk a lot about it's so important to have curiosity, ask the questions. And it sounds like that's really what got you down that road, because you were curious about the data and how it could be used more effectively or efficiently in organizations.
Oh, 100%, Denise. And, people that know me always say, like, you're always kind of a problem solver. But when you think about it, I wasn't really trying to solve something that was broken. Right? I was just wondering, is there a different way of doing this work, right? Could we get a machine perspective, if you will? And I think that's probably more what I see with people that have these, we consider like maybe interesting or amazing career journeys, is that they're always looking for that innovation, right? What's the better way of trying to do this?
Yeah, that's a really important point that you just made. You're not necessarily solving for something that's broken. I think sometimes people think it has to be broken, but just, is there a better way to do it, or a more efficient way? That's an important lens to think about. So with that, before we started, we were talking about how do you make sure you had a really good statement. How do you stop worrying and kind of lean into AI and not get too crazy, like, oh my gosh, I have to know everything, but not sit on your laurels and think, well, it's going to happen. You mentioned somewhere people think in 5 years. How do you balance that?
Well, you got to do it with one having foundational knowledge about not just like AI, the capabilities, not how the technology gets built, but two, what's the uses or misuses sometimes that could actually occur,
Mm.
right? There's so much stuff that comes out. I think last I checked, there's about 12 new AI tools that come out every day. It's a lot, right? You can really keep up with that. And the honest truth is, well, most of those AI tools, some of it's hype, some of it's not really AI, but there are a few legitimate ones and powerful ones that do come out. And so what I really find is you're a domain expert, like you're a CPA or you're a doctor or you're a marketer, you tend to lean more on your smart IT folks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Technology, they know what's going on, but we call AI the third generation of computing because it has different capabilities. So we don't actually program AI. Real AI is not programmed. It is not software. It's a high energy intern. And so it's ready to do whatever grunt tedious admin work you wanted to do, but you got to teach it first. And guess who the people that do the teaching are? They're the accountants, they're the doctors, they're the marketers, they're the people with the domain expertise. And so the best uses of AI come from those people. So I liken it to you don't have to know how the hammer is made, but you have to understand how you can actually use the hammer. And the hammer is just a tool, like all technology. A person could wield it to create, to build for good, or they could use it to destroy or wield it for evil. It's a people decision to learn or not learn how to apply these capabilities.
I like that how you mentioned the hammer piece because people think, oh, it's so evil, but it depends, right, on how people use it. As I'm thinking about the AI, I talk to a lot of students and they ask me, is it going to take over my job? Should I go into accounting? Should I be a CPA? What should I do? What's your advice you would tell them? I'll see if I'm telling them the right thing. That's what I'm going to ask you.
So yes, you should go into accounting. You should think about being a CPA. There's actually a huge shortage of people in the industry. I know that a lot of people, when it comes to AI, ask, is AI going to take my job? The honest truth is, it's the person using AI that's going to take your job,
Mhm.
right? This goes back to, things change, whether it's AI or something else. It doesn't have to be technology related. Job roles change. The way we work is going to change. And so, it's kind of the old Marine saying, adapt and overcome, or you die. I liken this to 1998, where you had some people, including some very powerful C-suite execs in Fortune 50 companies, that refused to use email, right?
Mm-hmm.
Variety of reasons for that. And people were worried, well, the executive admins won't have jobs anymore. We fast forward today and we look back and go like that's crazy, right? Why wouldn't they use email? And we probably have more EAs today than we did back then, right? It's just like what EAs do is different, but it's more value add. That's what
Mm-hmm.
we're finding in the world of accounting, just like every other industry. Most companies are not actually reducing headcount, even if that was the original goal. It's just there's this whole other set of work out there now that's more valuable that we can throw people and actually go and do.
Well, that's so true. And you think about all the innovations it just created, and I think you said this in one of your articles, it creates more jobs and it automates. That's what AI is going to do. It's just you have to know how to use it. And I love when you said you said a high energy intern, right?
Yep.
I so think that. I'm so excited sometimes when I think of something, I'm like, I'm going to go to Chat GPT and see what I can figure out with it. Right. So to me, it's energizing. I know other young professionals that use it and they code with it. So it's fascinating. Maybe you wrote a really great article for us and you talked about a couple different use cases. Can I ask you to just maybe go through a couple of those or some use cases you've seen?
Sure. I mean, one of the more popular forms that's actually coming out today is, we talk a lot about, like you mentioned, Chat GPT or Perplexity or Claude. These are generative AI, or we call them LLMs, large language models. Well, one of the more popular things coming out right now is SLM, small language models, where you teach it a very small universe of core sets. And so you think about the exciting world of the tax code, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many people out there have actually read the federal, state, municipal actual tax laws. If you have insomnia, if you insomnia, it's a great cure.
Right.
Yeah, but rather than go down and search through portals, search through these articles, citations, whatever, you see more and more accounting firms creating essentially an AI concierge that has read all the tax code. And so you can put a query to it and it'll tell you like, yes, no, here's the actual law. This is what's allowed, or this deduction or this amount. And it's become a huge time saver.
Mm-hmm.
My own personal story that the state of Oregon has now done this thing like, well, if you're doing company for an Oregon, or sorry, an Oregon-based company, but you're out of state doing it remotely, you're still partially susceptible to state income tax. And so actually using this concierge, we got an answer in like 2 minutes. And I was just asking my accountant, like, if you didn't have this concierge, how long would this taken you? And he's like, oh, honestly, we probably had to research it for 2 or 3 hours.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Just what it can do. I know. And I 100% believe what you're saying, that it's just going to create other jobs that are a lot more interesting. You just have to lean into those. And so that's where the courage comes in and the curiosity, for sure. I wanted to ask you about this because you had an interesting acronym when it comes to innovation. Is it TUCBO or TUCBO?
Yeah, I call it TUCBO. So it stands for think different, understand different, create different, be different, own different. And it's kind of a soup to nuts. So not just how you ideate and come up with ideas, but actually vet it out, the value proposition, how you then design, build, implement, create the infrastructure to be successful.
Interesting. So how do we say a lot too within CalCV, we're like, we have to be builders, right? And creators, all of us, to think differently. How would you suggest people start on that journey or continue? What's the first step you would say?
It's think different, right? There are actually techniques that force us to think different. And AI technology in general is a good example that we fall into a trap. We're so used to computers being about automation, doing something faster, cheaper, less errors, that all we do is take our existing processes and business models and try and automate it. But we're also automating all the existing flaws, and we're probably accelerating and scaling the errors that exist in those process models. So this goes back to, is there a better way of actually doing this with these capabilities? Is there something that is maybe some automation, but a different process, right? Or a different type of system to actually do this. Interesting example, I'm probably going to freak some people out with this, is HR and recruitment, right? You want to hire somebody, you always do two things. You see if they're qualified, and you see if they're going to be a fit for your team and the firm culture. The first, the qualifications we can test for, we ask interview questions, give them an exam, have them review a tax return if we want to, or maybe a trust or something like that. The challenge is the latter half. Are they actually a fit? Because who acts like their normal self during a job interview, right? You ask them like, oh, there might be times where we're slammed with work. You might have to put 60, 65 hours in. They're like, I love that,
Yeah, right.
But AI has turned this on its head, in that, AI is really good, particularly in hard sciences. So things like psychology and neurolinguistics, which is the science of language. It's like a fingerprint. It's unique to us. It can actually decipher. And this was 7, 8 years ago. Some companies started doing this. And so you send a resume. For the resume, you kind of decode, and you can see how much of a match their personality and work style is going to be for the team and the corporate culture. Fast forward to 2022, they realized all we've done is automate our recruitment process using some of these things. We could actually invert this, right? You put up a job posting, you get 1,000 applicants. You can check that cultural team fit up front, right? Just show me the people that are 80% matches or better. Suddenly they're going from 1,000 to 17 people. Then they do like their keyword search or whatever and said, okay, these 9 people look like they have the right qualifications. Let's bring them into interview. So very different process. And building off of that now, you see some places, including law firms now, your first interview is actually with an AI system because now it's not just checking your qualifications, it's trying to understand your thought process to see how good of a creative and critical thinker you are. It's a very different model for recruiting now.
Yeah, that's interesting because I took this I think it was about 2 years ago. I took this certificate program. It's at Stanford, and one of the sessions was you interact with a bot. So there's someone there that has a prop HR issue, and then you're to talk to that person and try to get them to understand the issue and move to the other side. And it's so interesting because it simulates a real person. I mean, it does. They back up when they don't understand or they lean in. It was just fascinating. It sounds like that's what you're talking about for that first interview is something like that.
It is. I mean, if you think about the future of work, everyone's so again fixated on the jobs. Once we know the jobs, have a job description, we can figure out the skills. Again, there's a better way of doing this, right? No one, I shouldn't say no one. If you think about what skills most jobs will need, you could actually reverse engineer some of this stuff. At a very large HR conference, I gave one of the keynotes and I threw up this slide saying, here's the jobs of tomorrow: asteroid miner, pharma, PHARMA, designer drugs, all these things. And everyone's got their phones out, they're taking pictures, it's a secret. They just wipe it out and say the jobs don't matter. And I showed 5 skill sets that 90% of the jobs of tomorrow are going to need. Everyone's like, oh my God, that's right. Those are the 5 skill sets, and we only teach 2 of them in our educational system.
You are 100, you're not going to fit like job to job, role to role. It's going to be competencies, right?
Yep,
Those. And so what do you remember the five that you had on the screen?
of course.
I would think so. So what were the five?
No, yeah. Number one, no secret problem solver. You got to be good at solving problems. Number two, you got to be good at the essential skills, what some people call the soft skills: communication, collaboration, facilitation, teamwork. Number three is you have to be a good creative thinker. In fact, a lot of companies today prefer to hire MFAs, Master of Fine Arts, over MBAs. They feel like MBAs learn frameworks and steps, whereas at least MFA, they think about, creative thinking, the different way of kind of looking at things. Four is you have to have a foundational competency of emerging technology. So how would you use AI or the metaverse or blockchain? And fifth is a domain to apply the other 4 skills into, whether that's accounting, healthcare, marketing, education.
Hmm. I like those. I like it because they're broad enough buckets for you to kind of lean into. The fine arts is interesting. I can see some of that because it's that analytical thinking somewhat, which I think we've lost in a lot of systems sometimes, is that piece.
100%. And I tell people, and it's interesting. I was talking to a good buddy of mine who's a partner at a medium-sized accounting firm because he's like, it's so expensive to get data scientists and machine learning folks. And I'm like, yeah, we need more of those people, but you start thinking about getting people that are skilled in philosophy and the arts. Because at the end of the day, when you're talking about using AI, especially for your firm, one is the kind of the what if, the scenario planning. So what are things that could go well? What are things that could go wrong? And that's what philosophy helps us understand, is kind of that, speculative thought process. That's scenario planning. Second is everything is about an experience, client experience, student experience, hotel experience, as well as motivators and how do you get people to either tell you or adjust their behaviors. And art's a great influence on doing that. So everything kind of starts gelling together. So as much as we need more technologists, we need a lot more people with some skills in philosophy and the arts.
Yeah. We talked about because we're seeing more and more second career professionals come into accounting, and we said, let's go to the liberal arts school. So one of our accounting professors was saying, go grab some of them because, you don't have to necessarily come up through the standard pathway. And that's something that we're changing is you can have all these different backgrounds and foundations to your point and still be able to do whatever job. It's just how do you apply those? And that's the last piece that you said. It's great information, Neil. I can't wait to hear more at the summit. I have a couple questions yet. The one of them I wanted to ask you is, what has been the biggest surprise or challenge you've seen?
I think the biggest surprise is that AI has really, I think, gotten a great grasp on people more than I think we like to acknowledge at times. We benchmarked that AI is way better at understanding the emotional state of a person than another human being can actually grasp. So, like, there's 2,000 points on your face alone that tell your emotional state. The best person can watch 5 to 7 of them in real time, whereas the AI can watch all 2,000. And it's looking at your word choice, the inflection of your voice, your other body language. It's not distracted about some noise in the background. It's not thinking about what to say back. It's not wondering what the kids are up to. It's got that laser focus that it does a way better job. And as a result, people are more honest when they talk to an AI system or bot than they are to another person.
I've heard that. I was reading that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the LAPD is now using some of these AI bots to do minor police reports, like the bicycle or car gets stolen, and it's just fascinating to see where these people, like, they are like, well, okay, was your car locked? And the person like, I might have forgotten to lock my car, whereas they would not probably tell that to a human officer. We've seen the same thing with kind of in the accounting or personal financial planning world where people kind of say they're more of a risk taker than they really are, right? But they'll tell the AI, more honest things because they feel like they're not being judged. And so you actually get better information. And so, I mean, think about it. If you're an accountant or a CPA, how much more powerful that information gathering would be if you had the straight truth, right? The straight risk tolerance of your client.
Yeah, I think of that from the fraud perspective. And you mentioned a case, there too. Was a fraud like framework that was put together because I think that would be really helpful.
Well, I mean, that's the goal. I mean, it's some of the tools we're doing. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, credit card companies are using this for fraud detection right now per transaction. I think a few months ago, took the family out for a nice dinner, great service. I'm literally walking out of the restaurant. I get a text message from my credit card company, and they're like, "Hey, we noticed you just ate at this restaurant." They named the restaurant. You left a 31% tip. You normally tip like 27%. Did you mean to do this? I responded, yes, it was great service, but it shows you the level and the tracking of my behavior. They're taking to see like any kind of reasonable outlier. Let's just go ahead and double check.
That's fascinating. So a little scary, but fascinating. What did I hear this? I don't know, a year or so ago, I was talking to someone about AI and, they were saying it could be on your microwave and say, you want to go make popcorn and say, you don't need popcorn today. You need something else and tell you what you need. But, sometimes we can come up with some of these strange, different, use cases, but that's a fascinating one. I mean, think about it from fraud detection. That's a great one. So let me ask you, I just want to get your sense of blockchain because I hear, I thought blockchain years ago was one of the greatest technologies, and then it hasn't really went anywhere. And depending on who you talk to, some say, there's opportunity there. We just haven't been able to harness it. What are your thoughts?
Blockchain is actually a great technology for accounting. So, I don't want to go too techno geeky on everybody, but blockchain is a subset of what we call GDL, which is General Distributive Ledger. And so blockchain is actually just meant to record transaction and make those transactions indelible in a permanent record that can't be altered, create a trustworthy record. That's all it is. And that's why you see so much use of it in like supply chain management, handing off goods and smart contracts. I know that when it first came out, it seemed like everybody claimed to be a blockchain expert.
Yeah.
And I heard all these people were going to create all these use cases and stuff. And I'm like, I don't think you understand what blockchain actually is. But if you just think in the accounting world, if you're wondering if some of those charitable deductions are really made, if you have it all recorded on the blockchain, then you have it right there. You can just choose to share it with your accountant, with the IRS, whoever else you might want to. That's the real power of blockchain.
Yeah, it seems like there's so many applications. And in the beginning, you heard so much, and then everybody said blockchain, oh, cryptocurrency. No, I mean, it's It's not one and the same, but I think it got kind of a bad rap there for a while.
I think you're right, Denise. I mean, that I think people just equated at one point blockchain equals Bitcoin. And it's like,
Yes,
no, no. Bitcoin uses blockchain, but it's not the same thing.
right. Yeah, I think there was just misunderstanding out there, which happens, right? People grab onto different things. So, one last question I have for you is what do you when you're thinking of leadership, because you're leading out there, what would you tell emerging professionals? Like, how can they be the best leader they can be?
That's an interesting question. I actually am a contributing author to a book called Innovative Leadership in the Age of AI.
Oh, is that a new one?
I came out November of last year. I mean, you can find it on Amazon. Sorry for the shameless plug, everybody, but
Yeah, no, say it again so everybody hears.
yeah, it's called Innovative Leadership in the Age of AI. And it actually has very tactical things and steps you need to do to be a successful leader in this day and age. Not just AI, but rapid change. And I think that's the biggest thing is if you're just looking at just purely automation, I mean, there's value in that, but you're going to get left behind. That's the key thing is those 5 skill sets are so critical for you to have as an innovative leader, as well as developing your people. And we live in a time now where first or second to market is incredibly important because when it comes with AI, it keeps learning. That's the key thing. It keeps learning. The more it does, the better it gets. So it's a never ending arms race. But if you're 6 months behind your competitor, odds are you'll never catch them. Their AI is just getting better exponentially than yours can. Unless you're going to drop in $150 million to play catch up, it's not worth it.
So, first mover is essential.
First mover is essential. That's why I see more and more people like the mortgage lenders, for example. Mortgage Brokers Association asked me to come and meet with several of the big lending bank, managing partners, C-suite folks. Great discussions, there are things, but they were so concerned about regulation, liability, if a mistake is made. Literally a year later, just 3 months ago, they asked me to come back and meet with the same people. I was like, why? I mean, I get where they're coming from. It doesn't seem like they want to do anything. So I still went out and met with them, but I asked the question, you had all these concerns about regulation and liability. And they're like, those aren't concerns anymore. They didn't explain why, but they said we're behind, right? And we know it. And if we don't catch up and play leapfrog real soon, we'll be out of business.
I could see that. What would be a great AI tool is if you could, I think about affordability, people with, housing. If there's somehow you could say, if you're a renter, you have the capacity right to own, and 10% of your rent is going to go towards putting somewhere to own one day. I don't know. There just seems to be a better way to do this than historically what we've been doing. And, Neil, if you can make something happen out there, I think there's such a gap out there.
I'll put my mind to it. I'll be at the MBA conference in October, so maybe we'll think of something by then.
Yeah, I hope so. I was in real estate for a while, and I just see so many opportunities. So looking for you to solve make something better. That's it. Not something that's broken. Well, it's been a delight talking to you, and I so look forward to seeing you at the summit, everyone, August 1st. I think you're first up like at 9:15 or something. But I'm just delighted that you're going to join us, and I look forward to learning more.
Awesome. I can't wait. We're going to have a lot of fun at the summit, and we have some fantastic conversations. So looking forward to not just seeing you, Denise, but everyone else who's coming.
Yeah. Make sure you have lots of questions ready for Neil. He's got all the answers. Thank you, Neil. Appreciate you being here.
Rise and Stride is produced by the California Society of Certified Public Accountants. To learn more, visit calcpa.org.